Welcome to the Mountain Palace, Shaver Lake, California, in the Sierra Nevada. In case you don't know where that is, it'll take like 5 hours to get to Tahoe because you got to go back down into the valley, back up the state of California, and then back into the mountains to get to Tahoe. But there's snow around me. So I've got the fireplace on. That's why there's a Yosemite poster just over my other shoulder. And that's why I'm about to talk some 49ers football, because Nate Sudfeld got re-signed today. Sneaky big news on the quarterback front for the 49ers. Nate Sudfeld signs a one-year contract, which didn't surprise anybody when it happened this afternoon, when that news came down. But then we got the financial details from Adam Schefter, and it's worth up to $3 million and $2 million guaranteed. So this guy right here has just earned himself a huge pay raise. Remember that Nate Sudfeld's 2021 guaranteed money was $252,000. He didn't play at all during the regular season of the 2022 season. In fact, of the 2021 season. In fact, he was on the practice squad for most of the way. But in 2022, Nate Sudfeld's guaranteed money will be $2 million. He's a millionaire now. He's going to get $2 million no matter what over the course of this season. So what happened? What does it mean for the 49ers? Let's break it down. First off, this right here, the $252,000 that Nate Sudfeld signed on for guaranteed last year, that's not just a random amount. If you divided $252,000 by 17, you'd get the practice squad minimum per week. So essentially, last year's guarantee told us that Nate Sudfeld would be the 49ers practice squad quarterback. He beat out Josh Rosen for that third quarterback job. So that means now, by extension, $2 million means that Nate Sudfeld won't be on the practice squad anymore, right? He'll be the backup quarterback to Trey Lance. He'll be on the roster making that kind of money. I would say semi-yes to that question. Sudfeld is now making more than practice squad money, but it's not 100% surefire guarantee that it's 53-man roster money. $2 million is a significant chunk of change, enough to get us talking. But we're following the money right now, just like we did all of last season. That's kind of how we figured out that the 49ers were going to keep Jimmy Garoppolo. And now we're following the money to see what the hell this Nate Sudfeld stuff means. And when we follow the money, we don't have a smoking gun quite yet. If Sudfeld had signed on for $5 or $6 million, I'd be like, okay, surefire backup. But at $2 million, the 49ers leave themselves some wiggle room. So let's examine what they might do with the wiggle room and why they might like Nate Sudfeld enough to give him the pay raise that they did, even if they aren't 100% sure that he'll be QB2. First, 21-year-old Trey Lance, immediately after the season ended, praised Nate Sudfeld. And he was also praising Jimmy Garoppolo, but that is the praise that got all the headlines. But Lance snuck another very interesting line in there where he was unprompted and he said, you know what? Nate Sudfeld really helped me in the room this year because he was my mentor as far as understanding how the business side of the NFL worked. Trey considered Jimmy Garoppolo a mentor to understand how the football side of the NFL worked, but the business side, the comings and goings, the contracts, in college, you're generally teammates with a guy for 4 years. Guys will come in and out in the NFL on a 1 year, one year out basis, right? And for a 21-year-old wide-eyed rookie, remember that Trey Lance was the youngest player, period, in the entire NFL this past year. It takes a little getting used to how the whole business aspect of the operation works. And Trey Lance, after the season, came out and said that Nate Sudfeld was a mentor to him in that way. So it's obvious that Sudfeld and Lance are close. It's also obvious that Sudfeld knows the 49ers system and that the 49ers are trying to get Trey Lance more and more comfortable in their system. So assuming that Jimmy Garoppolo is not around in 2022 with the 49ers, there's a separate video on that you can subscribe that was recorded this morning in San Mateo, a few hours away from here. So made the long drive. Now I'm talking about Nate Sudfeld. What a day, right? You start talking about Jimmy Garoppolo's trade value. You end talking about Nate Sudfeld's $2 million guaranteed contract worth up to $3 million potentially. But you talk about system familiarity and familiarity of the quarterback room. Well, Rich Scangarello, the quarterback's coach, has already left. He's now the offensive coordinator at the University of Kentucky. The 49ers offensive coordinator from 2021, Trey Lance's first offensive coordinator, Mike McDaniel, he's gone. He's the head coach for the Miami Dolphins. And a lot of the brain trust is evolving, shall we say. Of course, Kyle Shanahan is still at the top, but Bobby Slowick, who was with Lance in the quarterback's room last year, is now the pass game specialist for the 49ers. He's the pass game coordinator. He's going to be in that room along with Brian Greasy, the new quarterback's coach, and Clay Kubiak, who's the quality control guy who's been upgraded to assistant quarterback's coach. So assuming Garoppolo is not around in 2022 and considering all these changes around Trey Lance, I think Nate Sudfeld represents some sort of continuity for the youngster who's only going to be 22 years old this season. That's younger than a lot of the prospects that just worked out at the combine and will be up for grabs at next month's NFL draft. So you have to like the move from a continuity perspective, and at least you understand it from a continuity perspective. But I'm still not sure if Nate Sudfeld is going to be the firm backup. And, you don't pay $2 million just for continuity. I think you pay that $2 million guaranteed up to $3 million for a chance to be QB2. But I think that, as I said before, the 49ers are kind of trying to play both sides here. And they're kind of trying to see what might evolve this offseason as far as all of their options at the quarterback position. And to that, I say, might the 49ers bring in a very, very experienced backup, but definitely a low-end backup, somebody like Brian Hoyer, who ironically was their starter to begin the 2017 season and the Kyle Shanahan era. Might they bring in a third quarterback to compete with Sudfeld and bring in intense familiarity with the system? Obviously, Hoyer's been with Shanahan at more than one stop, and to help bring Trey Lance along in the meeting room. So that way you would have Brian Greasy, former QB, in the meeting room, obviously a former Shanahan QB. You'd have Brian Hoyer, a Shanahan QB, in the meeting room. You'd have Nate Sudfeld, who's now a Shanahan QB, in the meeting room. You'd have Bobby Slowick, who's obviously been well-versed in the coaching, in the meeting room. And you'd have Clay Kubiak, who's actually the son of Gary Kubiak, so you know that he knows the Shanahan offense and that whole, lineage of coaching. You'd have so many guys around Trey Lance to help usher in this all-critical second year of development. That sophomore season is so important. We talk about the jump that Trey's going to want to make from his freshman to his sophomore season, his first to second year at the NFL level. Perhaps the 49ers are just trying to completely immerse him with teachers, both guys that are closer to his age and guys that are obviously a little bit older. This is all possible. This is obviously all also speculation, but I do know that the money is not speculation for Nate Sudfeld. He's actually going to be making those $2 million guaranteed, which to me is really interesting because, again, this is something that I mentioned on Twitter, and I'll mention it for the first time here. Shanahan has typically preferred to carry only two quarterbacks on his 53-man roster. In 2017, it was Hoyer and Beathard. In 2018, the 49ers opened the season with Garoppolo and Beathard. Then Garoppolo got hurt, so it was Beathard and Mullins. Fast forward to the 2019 season, it was Garoppolo and Mullins, right? And I think they carried three in 2019. That was the only year that they carried three, I believe, throughout. Yes, you had Garoppolo, Beathard, and Mullins in 2019. And then obviously Beathard suffered the family tragedy when his brother passed away and was killed in Nashville. Fast forward to this past season, and the 49ers had Sudfeld on the practice squad for most of the season with strategic activations. But the bottom line is that Shanahan typically prefers to leave that third roster spot open, and that's why he only gave Sudfeld practice squad money last season. So Sudfeld is now making more than practice squad money. And John Lynch talked about plan A, plan B, plan C. I think we can surmise with certainty that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch's plan A for the 49ers is a trade of Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance being QB1, and then I don't know what else. But if that holds true, if that's plan A, and if Shanahan only wants to have two quarterbacks on the 53-man roster, we can't rule out the probability or the chances, especially after this contract, of it being Trey Lance QB1, Nate Sudfeld QB2. But that's all that I know right now. It's just interesting to me, and I'm waiting for more evidence, and I'm waiting for more clues to be able to draw and connect all the dots to see what the 49ers are going to do this next season. All right, so a couple questions about this evolving 49ers quarterback room. Remember, the Garoppolo trade I don't know anything more than what I said in the video earlier this morning, so I probably won't take all too many questions about that. In general, the 49ers have multiple plans, and I think they have a favorite one. That's what I've reported. Whatever happens moving from this point forward, we'll wait and we'll see, and we'll make a YouTube video to react to it when news actually does come down. So let's answer questions about some of these guys. Tyrod Taylor, yes, that is a potential plan for the 49ers if they want to go the more expensive backup quarterback route. Tyrod Taylor, what would he cost? 7 to 10 million for the year? Still would be a sizable chunk of change. Even if the 49ers, obviously, they would only do it if they jettison Jimmy Garoppolo via trade or they released him or whatever. But, even if they didn't have Garoppolo's 25 to 27 million on the books, affording a higher end backup like Tyrod Taylor would take some financial sacrifices for the 49ers. But it is a possibility because of the familiarity with Anthony Lynn, who is a name I didn't even mention yet, but Anthony Lynn is also on this staff now. And also because of a potential similarity in style to Trey Lance, since Tyrod Taylor can also move around. And Connor Pollock just mentions that Tyrod Taylor is a cheap veteran that helped Justin Herbert. Yes, he helped Justin Herbert, but I wouldn't say cheap veteran. I think Tyrod Taylor would cost a few million more because he has had some success as a starter in this league. The 49ers thought they could get Andy Dalton last year when they were trying to work out their quarterback plan. They weren't sure about the trade up until they made the trade up. They were exploring different options, and one of the options to insulate the quarterback room was to potentially sign Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton had cost only $3 million for Dallas the season prior. At that rate, the 49ers might have been much more tempted to actually follow through with that plan. But then Dalton signed for $10 million with the Chicago Bears because the Bears started paying him true semi-starter caliber money because the Bears wanted Dalton to start and Justin Fields to take over. The 49ers, meanwhile, wanted a full-time starter in 2021, Jimmy Garoppolo, so they were okay paying in the 20s, and they weren't okay with paying Andy Dalton more than the Bears were paying him. So they decided to go all in. That's when they pushed all their chips to the middle of the table, traded up to number 3, and we see the dual quarterback track that the 49ers actually are still on right now while Jimmy Garoppolo remains on the roster. More questions about the quarterback position. This is not a question. This is a comment, but I am working late. Long drive today. I taught my class at College of Marin. There was a lunch with Lombardi from San Rafael today. I ate at Bruno's Deli. This prosciutto sandwich was unreal. Prosciutto, mozzarella, copa, garlic aioli. It was really good. And I did my exclusive rights free agent tender piece there from the sandwich shop. So if you're hungry and you want to get hungrier, go and check one of the other videos, subscribe to the channel. But I always work late if there is a reason to work late. And there seems to be a lot of reasons to work late with all the news that's been coming down. All right, more questions. Hell yeah. Give David some likes for working so late. I love that. Thanks. Has Sudfeld shown anything to give him faith as a backup? We haven't seen him in game action with the 49ers. We saw him in game action with Philadelphia. He was actually the guy that Doug Peterson insisted on playing in that Monday night or Sunday night football game where Philadelphia could have played spoiler, but they played Nate Sudfeld late in the game, and then Doug Peterson got fired. So that's all that I know about Nate Sudfeld. I think they had Jalen Hurts also available on the bench. That was the year before Hurts took over as starter. So that was a complete mess. But then Sudfeld came to the 49ers and apparently impressed them enough over the course of the past year, or impressed them enough, as far as his tutelage of Trey Lance, that they felt the need to give him a pay raise. And again, look at the pay raise. It went from $252,000 to $2 million. That's the guaranteed money. So he made a little bit more than $252,000 last year, given the roster promotions and all that. But guaranteed money is what matters at this point of the year. And it's a lot more for Trey Lance in 2022 than it was in 2021. Any more comments? Hope you guys like the background. I think I could take Nate Sudfeld off. I could show off the Mountain Palace up here in Shaver Lake. We got the fireplace going. We can answer a few more questions, but it was nice to have a picture of Nate Sudfeld up there for a while. It's a big day for him. I mean, he's literally getting $2 million guaranteed. I think that we toss these numbers around sometimes, and we don't really stop and think about how much money that is. I mean, the 49ers re-signed Maurice Hurst today. Maurice Hurst, the defensive tackle who played only 2 games for them last year, but was a promising ad when they got him from the Raiders. And he played at the league minimum in 2021. He's probably going to play at the league minimum again in 2022. 49ers lucked out in a way that they were able to re-sign him because he didn't have a chance to put much on tape in 2021 due to injuries. And, you just say, he signed for the minimum. Well, you know what the minimum meant in 2021? He played for $920,000. You know what it means for him as a year 4 veteran in 2022? It means $1.035 million, $1,035,000. So in 2 seasons, Maurice Hurst is going to bring in $2 million. And so far, he's only played 2 games. Hopefully, for his sake and for the 49ers' sake, he plays more. But these minimum contracts aren't small deals. There's a lot of money being passed around here, even on the very lower end. Does Jimmy have to be able to pass a physical to actually be able to move him? Well, he's not going to pass a physical right now as far as voiding an injury guarantee. So the injury guarantee would kick in. But any team trading for him would trade for him under the assumption that the physical would have an asterisk saying, hey, he's recovering from shoulder surgery, so he can't pass an everyday physical. But this physical will test everything else. And we're trading for him under the assumption that the shoulder surgery will heal itself, which is why the due diligence is so important for any prospective trade suitors at the moment. Those were some good depth signings for our defensive linemen. It's a long season. We need it, says Joe B. Yeah, I mean, today the 49ers, they're just bringing guys back right now. They're at about, I think, at exactly 51 rostered players, if you count Juwan Jennings, who's an exclusive rights free agent, who's been tendered, who hasn't yet signed his contract, because I believe they're working on a multi-year deal with Juwan Jennings. Not 100% sure there. But with Juwan Jennings, with Demetrius Flanagan-Foles, when you count all those guys, even the guys who haven't officially signed yet, the 49ers are at 51, which starts to clarify the cap situation a little bit. They're between, I can't give you an exact number right now because I have to run it, but they're between $4 and $8 million over the cap in the top 51 rule. By next Wednesday, when the new league year starts, the 49ers will have to be under the salary cap, but only with their top 51 players. So now that they've reached 51, theoretically, they're very close. Once it's finalized, they've reached 51, then we'll be able to calculate exactly how much the 49ers need to cut. And then every subsequent player that they add, 52, 53, 54, if he's making less than player number 51, won't count against the cap in the offseason. If he's making more, then he'll kick out the lowest salary. So it's called the top 51 rule. That's how the salary cap works in the offseason. 49ers need to get under it. They'll be way under it, obviously, if they manage to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. If they don't, they're going to have to get under it in different ways before the new league year starts. All right. Questions. 90 viewers right now. Only means half since he plays in California. It's true. There's some crazy taxes in this state. Opinion on Sudfeld being at a possible starting level in this league. That's what Adam Schefter said. We haven't seen enough of him yet. So I don't have an opinion on this because I would have to actually see him play in regular season games. He was the 3rd string quarterback, didn't get a lot of meaningful reps to be able to evaluate, how he would really do in practice, because the 1s and the 2s saved all their time for Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. So I honestly can't be sure. It's an interesting question. And, Schefter must have gotten the information from Nate Sudfeld's agent. Seemed to be pumping him up a little bit. But, I mean, the financial details. $2 million guaranteed is $2 million guaranteed. All right. Hey, this is my friend Chris Walker. It's because it gets clicks. People want stuff that gets clicks. Here's the thing about Tom Brady. If he wanted to play, he wouldn't be retired right now. So he currently doesn't want to play. Okay, he might change his mind. I'll give those people that. If he changes his mind, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would be out of their minds to trade him. Bruce Arians came out and said it would take more than 7 first-round picks for us to trade the rights to Tom Brady. That would be suicide. We're not going to do it. If Tom Brady really wanted to ride off in the sunset as a 49er, then he wouldn't have signed a contract extension that gave Tampa Bay his rights for the 2023 season, and he did that last year. So A, Brady's retired. B, he's under the rights of a team that will not relinquish them. So let's just use logic in this situation. But a good question, and hopefully I addressed it. All right, this is all good. Maybe I'll make another video about Trey Lance. I'm burning the midnight oil tonight. But I think it's going to be time to rest pretty soon. So everybody subscribe to the channel. Remember, follow the money. We followed it last year. That's how we figured out what the 49ers were doing with Garoppolo and Lance. I'm following it this year. Nate Sudfeld, $252,000 guaranteed in 2021, up to $2 million guaranteed in 2022. That's a hell of a pay raise, and it shows us that the 49ers might have something up their sleeve at that quarterback position. At cornerback, well, that's for free agency. We'll talk about that more in the coming days. So subscribe to the channel. This is the Mountain Palace at Shaver Lake. Welcome. I'll be doing some more here over the course of free agency. Everybody take care. We'll talk to you soon. Bye now.